A big problem with bubble sort are what's called turtles. Turtles are small array elements that are located towards the end of the array. So they will have to travel a long way until they reach their final position at the beginning of the array. Bubble sort needs to one by one lift or float every larger element over this turtle bar for the turtle to slowly move to the left-hand side of the array. So what if we did not only swap elements that are directly adjacent to another? What if we gave turtles, that is these small elements at the end of the array, a chance to be swapped to the beginning of the array without having to go through each position one at a time? This is the key idea behind comb sort. Now, how can we make this happen? Well, we must allow for swaps of non-adjacent elements. So we introduce a gap in between the elements that we are currently comparing and then potentially swapping. To quickly remove any turtles, we'll first work with a very large gap. You can see this in the animation. The two bars that are highlighted were at first very far apart from another, but are now getting closer and closer. Of course, at some point, we will still have to go through the array one by one, just like bubble sort would have done. So we have to shrink the gap during the sorting process. This means that eventually we will sort the array just like bubble sort would have done, but before this happens, we will have hopefully eliminated all of these annoying turtles.
Hey, so as with the other videos, let's first have a quick look at a numerical example before we dive into the code. So let's consider the same array as always: 2, 5, 4, 1, and 3. Now, comb sort, unlike bubble sort or brick sort, it does not compare adjacent elements. Instead, there's a gap in between the two elements that are being compared and potentially swapped with another. And this gap is shrinking over time. So at first, it's pretty large, and then it just shrinks. And there's a very simple rule. I mean, we could have any rule, really. We could just make up our own. But one of the most common rules is this one here. We take n, which is the length of the array, the size of the array, and divide it by 1.3. So in this case here, since we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 elements, we'll divide 5 by 1.3. And that is equal to roughly 3.5, and now we're just going to round down, which then gives us 3. So the first gap will be equal to 3. So let's get into the array here. So we take the very first element and compare it now with the element that comes after a gap of 3. So we take this would have been a gap of 1, then we have 2, and then we'll have 3. So this is now the element that we are comparing it with. So we're comparing 2 and 1. 2 is greater than 1, but currently comes before it, so we'll have to make a swap. We swap 1 and 2 and get 1, 5, 4, 2, 3. And now we're comparing 5 and 3. Remember, there's a gap that we're just skipping over. So we'll make the swap, and now it reads 1, 3, 4, 2, 5. 5 and 3 have not been swapped because, well, 5 has to come after 3, obviously. And, well, we have just had this last element in the array here. We cannot fit any further gap into this, so we're now done with the first pass. Now comes the second pass. Every pass of this loop starts by starts by recalculating the gap. So now the gap is 3. We take the previous gap. This is important. So we don't always take n, otherwise we would always get the same number. So now we take the previous gap, 3. We again divide by 1.3, which is roughly 2.3. And that means that we'll be using a gap of 2, of size 2. So now we compare 1 and 4. They are in order. No swap is necessary. So now we go down to here. 1 is not used anymore, but we take now 3 and compare it with 2. And here we got to make a swap. So we swap them, and it now reads 1, 2, 4, 3, and 5. Now we advance one element further. We take this 4 and we compare it with 5. Remember, gap of 2. Here, no swap is necessary, so we just copy the array and we are done because we have already reached the end of the array here. Now comes the third pass. We take the previous gap of 2, we divide it again by 1.3, which is 1.5, which then gives us, we're always using a floor function here, or we're just rounding down to the next integer value. And this then gives us a gap of 1. So now we're comparing directly adjacent elements. We compare 1 and 2, that's in order. 2 and 4, that's also fine. But 4 and 3, that is not. So here we got to make a swap. So we swap these two, 3 and 4 now swapped. Now we compare 4 and 5. This is perfectly fine. And then we have the final array. Hooray! It's sorted 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, when we want to code this, the first thing that we'll need is a function that determines the next gap. So let's just call this determine next gap. And we'll take one argument, one parameter, and that is the current gap size, okay? So we're now going to create an object called next gap, and that is equal to the current gap divided by 1.3. Now to make sure that we don't have a value, say 0.9, and or like something just slightly above 1, and then we're dividing it by 1.3 and rounding down, notice that this means that we're dividing, but then turning this into an integer, so we're just making it we're just rounding it down to the next whole number, okay? Just bear that in mind here. But to make sure that we're not rounding down to 0, we'll require that we'll have at least 1 as a gap size, okay? So how does this max function work? Well, you can just think of this as two numbers here, a and b. And in most instances, the max function will just return gap divided by 1.3 because this will be a number larger than 1. But as soon as this gap divided by 1.3, rounded down to the next whole number, is smaller than 1, the max function will say, well, 1 is greater than this over here, so I'm just going to return the 1 here. And then we can just return the next gap. So this will be the function here that we need. So let's run this a couple of times to see whether or not that works. Okay, so I'm just going to say print determine next gap, and let's just plug in 5 and see what happens. So this gives us 3.0. Would that make any sense? Well, we can easily check this. Print 5 divided by 1.3. So 5 divided by 1.3 is 3.8. And if we round that down to the next whole number, the next integer number, that's just 3. So here the gap works perfectly fine. So let's try another one. Let's use, for example, 2 and see what happens. So here, well, it would have been 1.5 and it had been rounded down to 1. But let's see what happens if we really use like something like 1.2. So we're just we would never have a gap of 1.2 because it's always rounding down to whole numbers. But let's just pick 1 here and let's see what happens if we plug in this. Well, here it would have been 0.76 or 0.8, whatever. And here, this is where this max function now kicks in and it says, well, 0.8 is smaller than 1, so I'm just going to return 1. And here we can see it returns 1. Okay, this is the first bit of code that we need here. Determine next gap. And while I'm thinking about it, I think there's a problem here. And this problem is that, let me go back to making this 2. This was fine. So let's go back to 5 maybe. Yeah, so here you can see that. See how this function is now returning 3.0. And this is not something that we would want to have. We want this to be 3, just like the integer number, because at some point we'll be subtracting this from n, and then we'll have a problem. So I think we can fix this by just forcing it to be an integer and not just rounding it down. So let's just make this, what did we have before? Gap divided by 1.3. So let's make this gap divided by 1.3, but then have the integer command around that. And now it's just 3 without 0.0. So now it's not a floating point number, but it's really just an integer value. This is important. So make sure that you have the integer function around gap divided by 1.3, and we don't need the double division operator here. Okay, now we are ready to code our functions. So let's, as with the other videos, just call this comb sort, which is a function of our array. And the first thing we'll do is we'll define n as the length of the array. And we can also just say that the gap, the first gap, is equal to, well, exactly n, which is the length of the array. And then we'll also have what we already saw before, the is sorted boolean, which will set false, and then we can start our loop, while not is sorted, and this is not important, or our gap is not equal to 1, right? If we had not included this, our code would not run properly. So as long as the gap is greater than 1, this will run. So we'll make sure that even though the array appears to be sorted, we just keep on shrinking it until we are absolutely sure that we compared every single element one after another and the array is now truly sorted. So each iteration of the loop, well, it starts by defining the next gap. So we can just say gap is equal to determine next gap of the current gap. So I'll just add a little comment here, determine next gap. Okay, so here I said that n was 5 and then we set it to 3. And this happened before the first pass actually took place, right? So we never actually used 5 as the gap. It was already reduced to 3 before we actually compared any elements. And if you look closely, this is exactly what happens down here. So you can see that we set the gap equal to n, but we haven't done any comparison or swaps down here, but we are already reducing gap to the next lower gap size. Okay, now it's time to traverse the array. We'll set is sorted to true, and we'll set that then back to false whenever we make a swap. So now it's time to create the loop. So for I in range 0 to n minus gap, this is important. The gap now enters here. We had something like n minus I before when we did the other sorting algorithms, but now we have this gap size, and this is what changes from loop to loop, from iteration or traversal to traversal, from pass to pass. And now it's, well, n minus gap within each pass, okay? And instead of comparing element I or j or whatever it was with I plus 1 or j plus 1, we're now comparing I with I plus gap. So if element at I is greater than element at I plus gap, then we'll have to make a swap. So we'll now swap element AI and element AI plus gap. So I'm just going to copy paste this over here, change the order, and there we go. We just made the swap. And to make sure that the array is not now sorted because we just said is sorted to true, we have to make sure that we set this back is sorted is equal to false. And this should be it. So let's just check whether this works. A is equal to, as always, I'm going to copy paste this from up here down there, and then I'm just going to print it out, and then we'll comb sort it. Comb sort A. Let's run this. Okay, we got to print it again actually, and there we go. 2, 5, 4, 1, and 3. And after we applied the new command, it now reads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Yeah, before we can go back to the main, we have to introduce the yield statement. So I'm going to add this like before we make the swap. So this will be kind of like with brick sort where we yielded even though we did not make a swap. So I'm just going to add this in here. This is just before the if statement. And we're going to yield A, and then we're going to yield I and I plus gap. And then we'll have to have the third highlight list here as well, and we're just going to leave it empty. Now, bear in mind that you can add this yield statement pretty much wherever you want. This is really just for the visualization. And if you really only want to highlight the swaps, well, then add it somewhere down here, right? It doesn't really matter. I mean, this is just for us to see what's going on. It's not like comb sort has to have it right there. No, this is just for us to see what's happening in the visualization. And I think for this particular algorithm, having it out here will make it easier for us to see what's going on. So let's see how this works out. So let's go back over here. As always, I had just created this new file, comb.py, and now I'll have to import this over here. From comb import comb sort. And let's just add this down here. Let's go crazy and allow for 50 bars, and let's see what happens. Okay, there we go. This is a pretty large gap to start out with, but of course, the larger the array, the larger the initial gap will be. And you can already see that with each iteration, with each traversal of the array, the gap size is shrinking. It's now, less than 10, I would say. This is now like 6 or 7 bars only, and it's shrinking and shrinking. And we can see that there is this pattern of, at first, this being a very rough sort. So we can see that there's still a couple of bars out of order. There's just like a general trend, but now it's getting smoother and smoother. And I think this might actually be the final pass now. Yep, Okay, one more just to check. Now it's just going through there and just checking whether there's anything out of order. And now the is sorted Boolean is actually true and had not been changed to false. And now the while loop terminates and we have sorted the array. But to appreciate what's happening, let's just go let's just set this to 100 and see what happens. Because I just want to point out this sorting, this notion here of it being a rough sorted first and then getting better and better over time. So what you can see here now is there's already an upward pattern. It's barely visible, but we can kind of tell that these bars over here are already larger than the ones over here. And this will now become more distinct and more distinct over time. So with each pass, it becomes more visible. But we can always see the two bars here separated by the gap and how this gap size is shrinking. And I think this is actually a really nice animation here. And I think we highlighted this quite well, and it's now fairly easy to see what's going on. So we can now see that there is a clear upward trend, but it's like going up and crashing down, up and down, up and down. And this kind of repeats itself, but on higher levels as we go through this array. And yeah, this is it for this video. The next video will be cocktail shaker sort, or just cocktail sort. Yeah, and this will also be a very interesting video, so I definitely recommend watching that. And after that, we finally made it through this first group, this first class of sorting algorithms. And I think there we'll have a quick interlude with a new visualization function. We'll be using Pygame in this video. And yeah, I hope to see you in, well, the cocktail shaker video first, and then in the other video about Pygame thereafter. See you then. Bye.